What up? What up?
Technical difficulties, but we are here. That's what's
I know,
up.
right? I don't know. Just maybe we've been away for a little while, and then just I don't know. My brain forgot how to do something. I don't know.
Hey man, you know what? It's all good.
Yeah, man.
I'm
All
here
good, brother.
I'm here today to tell you to just give yourself some forgiveness. It'll all be okay. We will get it right next time. And we were only a minute late, so it's not even that big a deal. We're good.
That's fair. That's fair. Chris, what's up, man? Thanks for checking in, man. Glad you're back with us. Glad you're back with us. Everybody else watching, as always, we appreciate you, and feel free to drop a comment to us as well, so we know who's out there watching, paying attention to this crazy crew of ours. We're without our buddy Nick. He is on location tonight in Orlando, Florida. Isn't that what he said in his text, Orlando?
Yeah, I love how you said that, on location. Like, yeah. It feels like one of those radio reporters, and I'm just waiting for Nick to pop up seconds late and be that, listening in and always be late to respond. That's what it made me think of.
Actually, that would have been a great thing to have him do. Hey, this is Nick live in action in Orlando, Florida. And currently right now, the weather is 447 degrees because we're in Florida.
I couldn't imagine. Like, this weekend, it was warm here in Virginia. Yeah. And all I can think to myself when I see like more southern states is like, oh my God, like, how do you deal with it outside in the heat?
Well, this is the thing. So it's basically like, imagine, before you go to your event, you take a shower, you get all cleaned up, and, you put your suit on when you get there, maybe, or maybe you put it on before you go there, whichever way, and then you do your event. We just do it in the opposite. We put our suit on and then we sweat a shower while our suit is on and still do the event. So that's kind of the difference.
Man, it sounds painful. It feels painful. Like, I've been struggling to just like keep myself together recently during setup. And then by time I get to change, I'm like sitting, like trying to air out a little bit. Right. And, you probably have us beat by like 15, 20 degrees.
Well, and you definitely have to add some time on to be able to do just that. You know what I mean? Because otherwise it's just miserable. And let's be honest, like, there's nothing more miserable than being in full, like, suit and tie. And then, of course, the complement of that ladies may wear. And you're just like dripping with sweat, especially down your back, small of your back and all of that. And there's just like nothing you can do about it, And I mean, here, there's really nothing we can do about it. And everybody, and I'm sure it's not just here, like everybody, loves to do these outdoor weddings. And, I'm just like, I don't know, outdoor anything in 90-degree weather with formal clothing on is just not fun. I'm all for doing an outdoor event if you want to, but let's just make the dress code a little bit more appropriate. Is that fair?
I mean, I think that's fair. And also, I think people need to think about things like this too, is like, you don't need to start your ceremony at 2 p.m.
That's fair.
Like, let's push it back some. Let's 5:30, 6 to 7 cocktail, 7 to 11, or whatever, is appropriate in your area. But like, push that sucker back as far as you can. Yeah. And if you do want to do an outdoor wedding, like during the day, if you're determined, do that thing at like 12 or 1, somewhere completely different.
Yeah.
And then let everybody go home and chill and relax and get some like lunch and do the same thing that we're all going to do, which is like cool the heck down and then start up later. There's so many options, but people, it's so funny is in this industry is like, couples have their minds set on something. Maybe it's not both of them. Maybe it's one of them. And the other one maybe is just kind of backing up the idea, right?
Going along with it. Yep.
Yeah. But it's like, you think you want an outdoor wedding? Like, you really do? Until you're in the moment of having an all-day outdoor wedding. Yeah. And then I bet you there's a percentage of those people that are like, holy cow, what the heck was I doing?
Here's an idea. Maybe what they should start doing, and before I do that, I want to address Chris Disk here. I unfortunately will not be at the Marquee show in Chicago. Are you going? Frank, are you going to the Marquee?
Oh, no. Mm-mm.
Okay, I just want to double check. Yeah, I wish I could go, man. I just couldn't fit it into my schedule. But Chris, if you are going, if you haven't been before, it's a great show, man. You're really, really going to enjoy it. But how about this for an idea? Maybe the dress companies and like the formal tuxedo companies, they should have them do like their whatever they call that, where they try it on ahead of time or whatever, like their fitting, I guess, or whatever it is. They should make them do that outside in the sun, right? And just say, okay, this is what your wedding is going to be like, so that you know what you're getting yourself into. And then it gives them more time to be able to say, well, hold on, I don't know if I really want to do this. Maybe we need to make a different choice, right? Because maybe they've just never been in formal attire out in that weather.
Yeah. You know what else I found? Like, people don't consider the other guests.
Yeah.
I did a wedding, and it was a whole bunch of people who have run marathons. And it was this really cool thing that I learned actually at this wedding. The father of the bride was speaking, and he said, he asked everybody who had run a marathon or a partial marathon or anything to raise their hand. And it was like half the place. And there's a stat that he had found on Google that said 1% of all people have run marathons. So like that vent. But anyway, I thought to myself, wow, okay, so here's like 50% of the people who can probably handle this outside, hot, right? Maybe miserable. But I'm pretty sure there are definitely guests here right now that are just not feeling it and not making it well. And, you know, you kind of got to consider all that stuff. But, man, people just have it in their mind, like, I want this one specific thing and I want it no matter what. I don't care. And then they just ride with it. I just wish people, you know, people in the industry know this stuff. But if you're not in the industry, it's like you just
and not
have
only
this
that,
vision.
our marathons also ran at like 5 o'clock in the morning. So, like, the sun's not even thinking about coming out yet at that time frame, right? So
yeah. Well, actually, like apparently like 10 or 12 of those people had run the Boston Marathon.
Oh, cool.
Which,
hey, that's a great segue. Speaking of Boston, what a great city that is. And if you're a basketball fan, congratulations to to everybody who rooted the Celtics to win Game 7. I don't really understand how they won it, but they won it. That's all that matters. But now they're going to be going up against the Golden State Warriors, which is going to be an interesting series.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And that also gives us an opportunity to speak a little bit about sports in general too. But yeah, you're right. Like, I was actually super surprised. Do you know there was, and I don't know anybody out here who sports bets that's watching right now. And now we're really going down the rabbit hole, but there was I missed a parlay the other day that was if Jimmy Butler scored over 35 points, and then it was like hit over 3 threes. And if the Heat won, man, the odds on that parlay was like ridiculous, and it hit. And there were people who put like $200 down and cashed out for like $8,000 to $10,000 on that bet. And I'm like, crazy. And it was like all over the internet, and I just missed it. I could have easily put down some money and walked out a winner, but
well, that's betting for you. You know, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but I don't even want to talk about Boston baseball because clearly they have not totally figured out how to win yet. It's kind of this up and down. Yeah, I know you guys are going crazy. You guys are you still leading the division, right? Or are you
9.5 games?
Yeah. Are y'all? So y'all are not in the same division as the Dodgers, are you?
No.
You're in the National League, but you're not in the
East.
Same division. Okay.
Yeah, they're West. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, realistically, it should be. I mean, it would be us first. I don't think anybody else is going to stop either one of us from getting to the end on our side, on the NL side. So, but we've been ridiculously hot lately. And I mean, I couldn't have asked for anything more because like I've been waiting for this for a very long time.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think it's good. I think it's good for any sport to have some, you know, shake up a little bit like that instead of like the same teams always, you know, whatever. And then, so I want to go back to this basketball thing for a second, and then we're going to move forward, I think, because we got a lot to pack into what is probably going to end up being like 45 minutes by the time we get to it. Right. But interesting stat. There is zero experience in the NBA finals of everybody on the Boston Celtics team this year. Very interesting in that. None of them have had any experience in the finals.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's definitely interesting. They do have a couple of X Factor type players though. Yeah. And I think they match up really well against the Warriors. They definitely have the right, you know, between Smart and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I mean, they got 3 guys who can defend key positions on the other side of the floor. I mean, I definitely feel like they could pull it off, but man, ever since Clay came back and started really catching a rhythm, it's like hard to see the Warriors being taken down.
Right. I was going to say, I mean, I don't know. I don't even remotely know. And hey, thank you. We just saw a few more people started joining us. If you thought you were joining the Wedding Business Growth Podcast, you did. We just talk about sports for some reason in the beginning, and then we move on to actual the reason why we're here in the first place. But it's great to talk a little bit about sports. And I don't know, man. I love Boston. And here's another interesting fact. If they do win the title this year, they will take over as being the winningest NBA team title-wise. Right now, they're tied with the Lakers for 22 each, if I'm not mistaken. So that would be pretty interesting. But I don't know. I don't know that they can really stop if Klay Thompson and or Steph are, especially if they're both on fire. I don't know. Who do they have that can really stop that? I don't know.
Yeah. It doesn't look promising.
And there's not going to be any blowout games, I don't think.
You don't
with
think
the
so?
Miami series, there was these blowout games for one team or the other. I don't see these being blowout games. I think these are going to be tight games. And if they are tight games, that does not work to the advantage of the Celtics.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be tough. It's hard to not expect the Warriors to go off one or two games, though, too. Just because they can just score like nobody else can between the two of just the two of them alone.
That's true.
But man, it's so hard to tell. You think you know something in sports, and then next thing you know, you get slapped in the face with reality, and it's the complete opposite of what you thought it was going to be.
It's the greatest thing about sports. You just never know what's going to happen.
That's right. It's why you play the game.
All right. Well, all that being said, I think we need to dive into the reason why we're here tonight. And that is to talk a little bit about life and work balance. Don't you think we all have a lot of challenges in that? I think everybody in this industry really, I like that. That was a good visual. Can you do that one more time? I like that. That's pretty cool. Now, those of you that will listen to the repeat on podcast, you will not be able to enjoy Frank's visual there, but that was a very good visual of life and work balance. And
that's right.
Here's what's interesting, and I think this is going to come up tonight in our conversation. A lot of times people put work before life, and I think there's going to be a pretty interesting discussion about that tonight. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. So we have a wonderful guest that is going to be joining us in just a moment. And as I always do, I will do my best to read the bio of our guest without butchering it up too badly. And then we'll gladly bring her on to join us. So tonight we are joined by Sabrina Cadini, and she is a holistic precision life coach and a creator of the LifeWork Balance system, helping busy professionals and high achievers live and work better thanks to customized lifestyle changes. We could all use some of those. During her previous career as a passionate wedding planner, Sabrina experienced the negative impact of multitasking and quote-unquote busyness, typical behaviors in our modern society where we're always doing and rarely being, leading to burnout. Oh, I love that so much. Let me read that again. Where we're always doing and rarely being. Man, I like that a lot. This prompted her to reevaluate her priorities and to pursue a career in coaching that allows her to understand more about the body-mind connection. She now utilizes neuroscience, positive psychology, and the fascinating field of, I went over this a couple of times, epigenetics. There we go. To help her clients reach her highest level of performance and productivity while optimizing their wellness for long-lasting results in life and in business. I probably still said that word wrong, but you guys can look it up.
We spent 15 minutes with her before that, and you didn't think to ask.
Yeah, I didn't think to ask. How do I pronounce epigenetics? But I think I just did it right. I don't know. Here we go. Without further ado, please help us welcome Sabrina Cadini. Sabrina, how are you?
Hi, guys. Hi, Frank. Hi, David.
Hello.
Hi, location if you're watching the recording, right?
Absolutely. How bad did I butcher that up? Is it epigenetics?
You said it perfectly. Epigenetics.
Okay.
Yes.
I should have went with the confidence of saying it, and instead of thinking I was going to butcher it up. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you. It's so fun, and you brought back so many memories about weddings, outdoor weddings, which I've done so many times. So I was listening and enjoying the conversation.
Yeah, thanks. No, we always try to dive into a little bit of real life stuff, especially in the beginning of the night. And I'm sure with this conversation tonight, we're going to be definitely diving into a lot of real life stuff.
Yeah. So
I want to kick it right off. I kind of alluded to it. And so share a little bit about why you choose life-work balance over work-life balance. I think that's a great launching point of our conversation tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, people always struggle, as you said, with work-life balance. They try to achieve this balance, and they come to the conclusion that this balance doesn't exist. So sometimes they try to have different terms, like work-life integration, work-life flexibility, work-life harmony, right? But it doesn't really work. And I get it, because trying to combine work with life doesn't make sense. So people end up focusing on work because that's what pays the bills, and they put life last in their to-do list, right? This is what I've done for so many years as a wedding planner, and so many people do that as well. But we are human beings before everything else, and that's where you stop and repeat it, right? The sentence, we are human beings before everything else. We are not human doing so. Everything should start within our body and our brain. Also, while our bodies are under pressure trying to keep up with our hectic life, they have their own to-dos, and they work 24 hours a day behind the scenes trying to keep us healthy and thriving. And just to give you an idea, there are about 37 billion, not million, billion chemical reactions that happen in our body every second. This is crazy, right? And so when we are tired, it's not only for what we do during our day, but also because our body is working tirelessly for us. And so we were designed for a very simple life. Times are certainly different. We live in a technology-driven era where everything happens super fast. So our environment has changed, but our genes and biochemistry have not. So there's a mismatch here. And I loved Frank with the work-life balance, right? So there's a mismatch here. We still need to support our bodies and allow our genes to express and those chemical processes that I mentioned to function optimally. And burnout is a clear sign that our bodies can't keep up with the demands of our daily life. And that's why most of my clients come to me because of that. So how do we support our bodies? By satisfying our basic needs according to our biology. So we need to pay more attention to nutrition, to movement, to rest, to self-care and social connections. So this is how the life part of that balance should be prioritized. And I don't know about you, but I don't even know why the word work is placed before the word life. We live more than work, right? So I don't know how the term work-life balance came to life, right? So bottom line, body and brain are the best tools that we have available to thrive in life and in the workplace. And when we prioritize ourselves, we can excel in life and in our career, be more successful and profitable. And it's like putting a turbocharge, right? So we can accomplish better, more by prioritizing life. Does it make sense to you?
Yeah, it actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, I never really thought about, like you said, like the function of the body, and while that maybe doesn't evolve as much, but just the busyness and the demand of our just the lifestyle, that either the lifestyle you live or the industry you work in, or just even having social media and having so many things just so available to you, you're on this like information overload is like the best way I feel like I can describe it. And it's not something that, and also depends on, I guess, maybe how old you are too, because depending on your age, you could have like been exposed to like having a cell phone and social media and things like that your entire life, so to speak. But if you're a little bit older, then you may have not always had those things. I know that I actually lived in a time where social media didn't exist. I lived in a time where what we're doing right now wasn't even really possible, right? So things were a little bit slower then, and so that makes a whole lot of sense. And I love that you said your brain and your body are the most important tools and most important, because I've used a similar phrase that said your head and your heart are the two most important pieces of equipment you can ever bring to to an event. And I think in line with what you're saying, that definitely goes hand in hand. And I do understand the value of those.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just such an easy way to do it, right? Flip work and life, and then you magically can remember to prioritize the most important thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really minimal, like it feels minimal when you see it, and but when you actually start to like dive into the why the words are flipped, it makes so much sense.
Yeah. We don't do it enough because we have other things to do. We have deadlines, we have, tasks, projects, wedding world. I mean, I remember it was always being on, meeting with clients and, deadlines or timelines, there were so many things to think about. And so you become the last on your list and you're thinking, well, tomorrow. So you're putting yourself on the burner and then you see the consequences after a while, right? And then maybe it's too late sometimes. So.
Yeah, it's really hard when you're in this industry to turn it off. If you catch an email at 1 a.m. from that bride or groom who is just up racking their brain over something and you happen to be up or the ding wakes you up or whatever, you immediately want to go to answer it. So you couldn't be more right. And everybody's so accessible nowadays. You have to intentionally turn yourself off or turn it off so you can focus on what you need to. So you couldn't be more right. So with that said, tell us a little bit about what inspired you to become a life coach.
Yes. More than an inspiration, I would say I was forced to change career, and my experience in the wedding planning world inspired me or forced me to become a life coach. So as David mentioned, I used to be an event and wedding designer and planner, and you know very well how it is. The job of an event planner can become a 7 days a week thing if you're not able to set clear boundaries, as Frank mentioned, because we usually work during the week to plan, and then we manage the events on site during the weekends. So it can become like Monday through Sunday, and you know very well how it is, right? So I was working like crazy for my company. I also served on the board of several nonprofit organizations as their event producer. And I was director for the San Diego group of the Association of Bridal Consultants for years, about 8 years. So there was never a dull moment in my life, but I loved my job. I loved to create memorable celebrations for wonderful clients until 2010, 2011, when things started to take a different turn. And I remember feeling overwhelmed, stressed out. I didn't enjoy working with my clients anymore. I didn't feel creative or inspired anymore. Multitasking was my best friend, and I was sleep deprived because I was trying to fit everything in my 24 hours. Yep. And this started a vicious cycle because lack of sleep would not get me very far with my to-dos. So I would get more anxious and I would need to work longer hours. And on top of that, I experienced thankfully minor health issues. And so I started to see a lot of red flags. So after months and months of visits between doctors, specialists, medical tests that didn't detect anything wrong, I decided to do my own research. And that led me to many discoveries, like the body and mind connection that David mentioned, how body and brain are tightly connected. And also I learned about the gut-brain axis. This is a difficult concept, but it's a bidirectional signaling network between our digestive system and our brain. And so what we eat and think can have a tremendous influence on how we feel and live. And so this is something that many people don't know about. And they miss this valuable piece of information about the impact of nutrition or stress in their daily operations. So with that knowledge in my hands, I started to change my daily habits. I created a toolbox with effective strategies. And after a few weeks, I was able to heal completely, regain my energy and positivity, and become even more successful with my wedding planning company. And that system that I created for myself inspired me to pursue a career in coaching because at that point, I felt that I could help others in my same situation. So here I am with you guys today, helping people be happy for the rest of their lives, as opposed to when I was planning weddings, making couples happy for just one day in their lives. And so there's much more satisfaction. And when I share my story with people, they think that the solution I'm suggesting is, well, change your job as I did to live better. But in reality, my message with my story is, when you know how you function as a human being, you learn how to optimize yourself. And so you can make the necessary changes before burnout stops you like it stopped me.
Wow. That's powerful. Frank, I know you wanted to say something about that. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, no, it just, I mean, honestly, and she mentioned it right before she wrapped up there. You go from planning or coordinating somebody's one singular day to helping plan and coordinate their daily life. It really uses a lot of the same skills, different knowledge base, but a lot of the same skills. So, I mean, it makes a ton of sense. I couldn't agree more. And I also think, like you said, as rewarding as one day is of someone's life, it's just that much more rewarding to do it for multiple days of their life. And so, I commend you for finding a new calling. It's hard to, not that you necessarily were looking to get out of the wedding industry, but the wedding industry is one of those spots where once you're in, it's like it's tough to get out, because it's like you're always booking next year, and it's like, oh, well, I already have a few next year, so I'll finish up, and then it just keeps extending. So, kudos to you for identifying and finding that, and then also finding something that, was more rewarding in a different way for you, and something that you like did yourself already is really awesome. But I love that.
Yeah, thank you. And you said it very well, Frank. And yes, it took me about 3 years to transition from the wedding planning world to life coaching, because, as you said, yes, I had weddings booked, and I couldn't say, you know what, I decided to change jobs, so I don't want your wedding anymore. I would have never done it. So yes, it took me a few years, but at the end, I was so happy that I've done that.
I think one of the things that y'all talked about that a little bit earlier was about, having to always be on. And I have a friend of mine who has said that to me multiple times, has said, I don't really understand necessarily how you're able to do your job at the level that you're able to do it, because you always have to be on. And when you're, as an entertainer or a DJ or MC of an event, when you're in front of everybody and you're not necessarily the face of the event, I don't really think that we're the face of the event, but we could be the voice of the event. We're definitely, somebody that is a visual part of the event. Let's put it that way. You know what I mean? I think sometimes some of the other vendors can kind of be behind the scenes and kind of fall behind the scenes, and whatever their deliverable is a little bit more of, like, if it's, for example, the person who makes the cake, like they usually make the cake, they bring the cake there, they set it up, they make it all look nice, and then they're out of there. And the cake is what's beautiful or is falling over. Hopefully not the latter, right? But it could be one or the two, right? But in our world, like we have to be on, and if you're not, people will catch it right away. Well, it might depend. If they don't know you and you can hide it a little bit, you might get away with it. But the chances of you not getting away with it are much, much greater than that cake person who brought the cake, set it up, made it look all pretty, and then left. And maybe they're having a really frustrating, challenging time in their life right there and then, or maybe they're feeling a little under the weather, or whatever the case may be. And so I think that's so interesting, because, again, like I said, this friend of mine I'm referring to has said to me so many times, like, I don't even understand how you do your job, because you always have to be on. And then I think the other thing that you said that I really liked was that you don't have to change your job to make a change. You don't have to change, like, you don't have to change everything, but sometimes the number one thing that we overlook is that ourselves, there's something internal, there's something that we have to change, not externally, but internally we have to change. And I know just from personal experience, you alluded to, and I think we're going to jump into this a little bit more in detail next, but you alluded to about food and nutrition and how it can affect your mindset and and all of that. And I know that when I get frustrated, the first thing I want to do is just go eat everything that I shouldn't be eating. But then after that, I'm like, why the hell did I do that? Like, that was the dumbest thing I could have ever done. And so instead of like taking all of that out of the cupboard or out of the refrigerator or whatever, instead of doing that, it's more important for me to really change what's up here about that. And I think that's exactly what you were saying. So I love that so much. And I know that's something that touches so many people. So let's do that. Let's talk a little bit about your 6 pillars, because there's 6 pillars, and I know we talked about this off camera a little bit as we were preparing for the show. And let's kind of go into that, because I think that's really the meat and potatoes of what this is all about. And while we may not be able to share like in depth about all of it tonight, I think it's great to at least kind of bring those pillars to people's thought process and a little bit about those. So I'd love for you to share those if you would.
Yeah, let's do that. So this 6-pillar framework is also called Harmony Compass, and it's part of my coaching practice. And this is the system basically that I created for myself after I experienced burnout as a wedding planner. So it's constantly evolving, and I use it for my clients. So basically my clients go through a journey which is divided into 6 main areas that equip them with better knowledge about lifestyle choices. And as they work on multiple areas and create goals in multiple areas, and they adopt a new habits for each area, they amplify benefits and growth. So the more areas they work on, the more benefits they can have in their lives. Because we go back to those chemical reactions that happen in our body every second, right? Those reactions do not occur in isolation. They're linked to each other. They're all interconnected. So optimizing yourself on different fronts can amplify the benefits and the results. So the first pillar is called Nourish, and it's about nutrition, obviously. Food is our main source of fuel and energy, but it's also information for our genes, and it plays a key role in our health. So this pillar focuses on the nutrients and hydration that are necessary for metabolic processes to function properly. The second pillar is Move, and it's related to movement. Being active every day remains one of, I would say, the most powerful ways to reverse a sedentary lifestyle and to positively impact our physical, mental, and emotional health. So this pillar focuses on optimizing movement throughout the day with targeted workouts. The third pillar is Rest, related to sleep. As we know, sleep is involved in multiple regenerative and restorative processes to support our mental, physical, cognitive, and emotional well-being. And so this pillar focuses on building an optimal sleep routine and reaching a desired number of hours per night. The fourth pillar is Reframe, one of my favorite ones. And I could talk for hours because stress is among my favorite topics. Now, stress is great for us. It's not bad. It's not the bad guy. It's just a natural response in our body, but too much of it can harm our health. So this pillar focuses on identifying stress, anxiety, or burnout triggers and creating strategies that help us reframe the body's way of responding to a threat. And a threat can be a real tangible threat like danger or just our thoughts. So we need to recognize what's causing this pressure. Then the fifth pillar is care. Self-care is not selfish, is not a luxury, but it's not a sign of laziness either, as many people think. It's essential to reset and recharge to feel at our best. So this pillar focuses on self-care practices to weave throughout the day, even for the busiest clients that I have. And the last pillar is Plan, related to planning, organization, and time optimization. And the goal here is to understand how much your time is worth and plan strategically so you can spend it more on things that can make a difference in your life and get you closer to your goals. Because I mean, we complain about busyness all the time, right? I'm sure when you ask your friends or family, your people, you know, how are you doing? They say busy.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first response that you always hear, right? But we create busyness. And so we have more control than we think on our time. And we should take advantage of it.
Wow. You know, right off the bat, just saying that stress is not a bad guy, that is so interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit more about that, if you would, because
Oh
that
my goodness.
really, Frank, I don't know about you, but that's really interesting to me. That's honestly, I think it's the first time I've ever heard somebody say it, and that's probably why
Yeah,
it's so interesting to me.
absolutely. How much time do I have? No, I'm kidding.
You go into it. Go into it. We can scrap everything else because this might be worth the whole hour right here.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember on the Within Business CEO Summit with Heidi, my presentation was about stress, reframing your stress response, because that's what I absolutely love. And this is also because I've lived with stress and anxiety for decades without realizing that my response to stress is in my DNA. And maybe we can talk about that as well. So I can change it. I can regulate it with food and habits, which is so powerful thanks to epigenetics. So stress is simply a natural automatic response to a change in our routine or in our life. And it's part of our daily life. I mean, stress is all around us, right? Stressors are here all the time. And there's a reason why we are programmed in that way, because our stress response is essential to our survival. It helps us react to danger or a threat. So basically, the brain tells the body to mobilize and get ready to fight or flight or basically go away, run from a tiger or a dangerous situation, right? So it helps us survive, basically. And as I said, stress is not bad. It's actually good for us. And an example is when we exercise. We put pressure on our muscles and joints, and then our muscles grow, right? We put stress on those to let them grow. But stress can be good for us only if we give our body the time to rest and recover. That is the key. When you give the time to rest and recover, that's how stress is helpful for you, because then your systems go back to balance and you see growth, you see the benefits, right? Today, we're constantly exposed to stress. We're stressed all the time, from the moment we wake up in the morning until we go to bed. And then sometimes we don't sleep because we're too stressed, right? So it's like a 24-hour cycle. And we react more to things or thoughts that are not really threats or dangers, right? And unfortunately, the brain reacts in the same way, whether it's a tangible threat or a thought. So the process is still the same. It tells our body to release cortisol and other stress hormones to mobilitate us and to get us prepared to fight the threat, even if it's just a thought, right? So you constantly marinate yourself in that cortisol for long periods of time that eventually can lead to health issues. Also, we usually point the finger at stress in the workplace, but our body and brain are sensitive to the environment around us. And this is because they're always trying to protect us. And each of us reacts in different ways and with different intensities, since the perception of stress and our response is highly individual. So that's, your friend David, who was saying, I don't know how you can be always on, because maybe he has a lower threshold to stress. So he needs more time to rest and recover. Maybe you have a higher threshold so you can sustain stress for longer periods of time. Okay. So I can go on for more, but this is just a little, introduction.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So
I think
again,
the other thing that I'm sorry, I was going to say, I think the other thing that you said too, which I think, well, two things about, I agree. I think I will put my hand up as high as I can and say that most of the time when somebody sends me a text message and says, hey, David, how you doing? What are you up to? Whatever. The word busy is in there somewhere all the time. But I also know that there are a lot of times where I consciously check myself and say, am I really busy or am I just really busy saying I'm busy? And I think that is something that we all should try to do, because you realize that there's a lot of wasted time in all of our lives. And I think the other thing that you I don't know if you really just absolutely said it, but what I heard and what I believed in is that, like, people always say, well, I have this routine that I always do. And I think the reality is that if we can be open and we can be susceptible to some change, then we can create a new routine. And I think we can get scared of that sometimes, right? Like you have this a little bit of a fear of change, but you realize that it's just kind of unplugging one thing from your routine and plugging something else into your routine, but your routine still stays here. Like I was talking to I was talking to a mentor of mine, and we were talking about a keynote presentation that I was working on, and she was talking about how there has to be this kind of this underlining backbone of the whole premise of why I'm talking, and I can pull these little modules in and out of it, but the backbone has to stay the same. And so I look at this same analogy and say that you can still have this routine that stays the same, but you can unplug things that aren't really working well for you and plug something good in that will work for you, and that will become your routine, but you still have a routine. I think that's just so valuable. I don't know. I'm going on about it, but I really think it's so valuable.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. Yeah. And as you were saying, you can always change something in your routine and make it more efficient for you. Yeah. And, I think in moments of stress or pressure or whatever, they are during the day, I think awareness is the most important thing to you. So when you pay attention to what's happening whenever you feel pressure, and you really recognize what is causing you to feel that way, what is the source of stress or anxiety, it helps you really switch from an autopilot response or automatic response and maybe react in a bad way. And it puts you more in control of your response, and you can change it over time. And that's how you can also, modify your routine and be more present, more aware, more in control of that. I love that.
That's so valuable. Frank, I don't know how you feel about this, but I know there's a lot of times I will find myself just like plowing right through stressful times. But I think what you just said, Sabrina, is so important to really, take thought about what's happening right now, what's causing this right now. Is this something that is a repetitive thing for me? And if it is, how do I break that cycle? How do I stop that from happening? Frank, do you find yourself experiencing that? I don't know if it's just guys do that, but it just feels like just plow right through. I'm just going to get through it and I'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I have a day job, which then also just lends itself to having, like, Monday through Friday, I've got to be doing that. And then in the evenings, I've got to be responding to couples and clients, or doing that during my lunch break from my day job. And then, of course, on the weekends when, most day job people would have time to relax, then I'm at weddings. So yeah, I mean, I typically just kind of plow right through stress. Funny though, money stress is like the only stress that will just like knock me down to where like I feel like I can't move. Everything, all the other stresses, the work stresses, the coworker stress, the couple of like more difficult, challenging weddings that you have a year, I make it through those. The kids stuff, I make it through that. But when it's the two things that knock me down, money and when my kids are sick, right? Those are the two things that just like I can't move past it, like for whatever reason. And it just stops me like dead in my tracks. So yeah, no, I totally agree with you, David. Most of it, you just kind of I just kind of push right through too. But I want to change this up a little bit, because I find it interesting that you had mentioned, right, when somebody asks you, how are you doing? A lot of people say busy, and David said the same thing. My response is always tired. That is always what I say. Sometimes even when I'm not really tired per se, it's just the first thing that comes out of my mouth. So, and I know that's something else that you talked about, the importance of improving your sleep habits and whatnot. Talk a little bit about that. I'm going to be a little selfish here. So talk a little bit about that, because I
Yeah.
want to hear about that.
And it's very common. A lot of people come to me because they're stressed out and they're fatigued all the time because they push themselves until, their inner resources are done. They're like, I'm done. I can't help you anymore. And, the way I approach this, since I use a holistic approach, is that I take a look at their daily and nightly habits. Because to me, the move and rest pillars are complementary to each other. And for a very simple reason. So our body goes through, again, we go back to how we function. So I go to the cellular level. Our body goes through different internal cycles or clocks. And one of these biological clocks is the sleep-wake cycle, which is part of our circadian rhythm. You know that, right? I don't have to explain that. No, this is a cycle that happens through 24 hours during the day. And so whatever we do during the day can impact the way we sleep in the night, and vice versa. The quality of our sleep plays a major role on our daily activities and performance. And so that might be one of the causes why you're always fatigued. But, trying to tackle the fatigue thing is very difficult because sleep issues are very difficult. They can be caused by a myriad of things. Stress, that we pretty much talked about, overuse of technology, we touched on that, a disrupted circadian rhythm that I just mentioned, hormonal imbalances, blood sugar imbalances, digestive issues that may affect your neurotransmitter production. I mean, it's impossible to know what may cause your fatigue, your tiredness, and the sleep disruption, if there's any sleep disruption. And so I usually suggest my clients to do a lot of testing. And once we test, we can see what the causes may be. And after we know what the causes are, then we can strategize and find solutions for them. So do you also have trouble sleeping by any chance, or is it just tiredness?
No, I mean, usually I'm like a gas tank on empty when I finally go to sleep, right? So
Yeah,
if I feel like I have any left in the tank, sometimes it's hard for me to like crash. I'm
yeah,
usually just like go, 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 boom, off the cliff,
yeah,
right? And then kind
absolutely,
of back to it whenever my alarm goes
absolutely.
off.
Yeah, yeah. So in that case, you may want to take a look at how you handle your day. If you don't have sleep problems, then you have to take a look at how you handle your day. And this is something that I usually explain to my clients when they are not able to function until the end of the day to my clients, because it means that they push themselves too much. And I mentioned another cycle that we all have. I know this is a lot of stuff. I don't know. But what I tell them to do work with your energy levels instead of obsessing on the time you have available. And so there's a little shift here. So instead of taking a look at 1 hour, 2 hours that you have available, assess yourself and see when you are most productive, when you're most alert, when you're most active, right? Or creative, depending on what you do. And so this relates to another biological rhythm, which is called ultradian rhythm. I don't know if you ever heard about it. And so basically this energy cycle repeats itself many times during the day. So feeling fatigued or tired, not only at the end of the day, but every 90 minutes to 2 hours is totally normal. This is how our body works. And so this is because our body sends signals that it needs some downtime in order to regenerate cellular fuel, rebalance blood sugar, flush toxins. The brain needs to go through all the data that we've worked on, tag it, organize it, create, synaptic connections to merge and exchange all this information. It's a lot of work, right? And so once you're able to identify those periods of time when you're most productive, and when you're able to understand how this ultradian rhythm works, helps you take advantage of your energy and your inner resources and optimize performance so that you don't finish your day out. So you can basically recharge throughout the day with breaks. So you work 1.5 hours, 2 hours, and then you take breaks. So your body recharges. It's like a battery, right? So you recharge your battery, and then you work 2 more hours, and then you recharge again. A lot of people don't take breaks because they think, oh no, it disrupts my workflow. I cannot afford it. I have too many meetings. Well, you set your meetings, right? You can dictate how you handle the day. I understand on a wedding day, of course, the time is dictated by your wedding couple's timeline. You can say, okay, guys, time for a break. Stop dancing because I need to recharge my batteries, right? That's not going to happen. But during the week, you can organize your day. So for client meetings, you can set your time frame. I will start meeting, I don't know, at 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., right? You assign your business tasks and projects at certain times of the day. For instance, when you experience, I don't know, low energy at a certain time of the day, you can work on low priority or low focus activities during that time. You're still making progress with a different intensity. So you focus on little things. And then you do the same with your personal to-dos, when to exercise, when to eat, when to sleep, when to spend time with family. So breaks are essential, I would say. So you can recharge your energy, and then at the end of the day, you should still feel okay, not too tired. And of course, breaks can be as little as 5 minutes, but after 2 or 3 hours of deep work, you should take like 15, 20 minutes if possible. And so you can get up from your chair, hydrate, stretch, you can go outside, take a walk. Just don't check your phone because you're still putting your brain under pressure. So that's not a recharge, right? You want to press the reset button for a little while so that your body takes a breath and is back to helping you work. I hope that helps.
Me too, because
Yeah.
I could use any help I could get sometimes. I guess in this day and age, I mean, you say something really interesting, right? I guess in this day and age where, like, this thing is so important, right? I mean, to everybody, when I step away from my day job, it's in my hand. And even if I'm not working right on it, and maybe I'm playing solitaire, which is my new thing right now, or whatever, you're still not like giving your body and your mind just a chance to just like exhale and relax. So it's a really good point that you bring up. Regardless of what you're going to pick this up for, put it down for those 15 minutes or whatever, and just allow yourself a little bit of time, like you said, stretching, drinking some water, stand outside, get some fresh air. I really love that.
Yeah. And if you can put your phone in airplane mode when you sleep, even better. So at least you're not interrupted by the ding.
Yeah. Unfortunately for the people who try to email me in the middle of the night, I sleep like a rock. And so it wakes my wife up and it makes her mad, but I don't even move. So
yeah, I love that.
I think what's interesting is I was listening to what you were saying earlier, Frank, and then just listening to what Sabrina was saying just then. And I was thinking, you were saying how the stress, the high stressors for you are money and when your kids are sick are the two things that I heard you say. And I started thinking to myself, those are probably actually healthier for you than the ones that we just keep pushing through from a long-term standpoint, right? Because maybe if we keep pushing through, then we become numb to this necessity to reset because we think we can just keep pushing through. And so it's just, wow, this is so interesting to me. This whole conversation is very honestly fascinating to me because I'm always intrigued by, we find ourselves so often saying, I wish something was X, right? Like, I wish my life was not so busy. I wish something was this. I wish something was that. And the reality is that the solution to that is really not that difficult, but we're sometimes afraid to do it because of that word change. Here comes that word change again, And it's almost like you want to say to yourself, why not why not look at a solution to the challenges you have? And instead of saying, hey, I am going to completely change my life forever, say to yourself, let me give this, I would say 30 days, but if you can't handle 30 days, I'm going to give this a good old, I'm going to say good old college effort. I don't really like that phrase, but anyways, we're going to give it the good old college effort for 14 days, for 2 weeks, and really be aware of how you are during that time frame. And I think we'd be absolutely surprised at how much, we actually would be okay with those changes, because we would see that all of those I wishes start actually kind of becoming true.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is part of the victimism that we have. And in our society, we want to show that we're busy because it shows that we can accomplish things. It shows that we are more successful, right? But it's actually putting our health in danger. And so as you were saying, yeah, changes can also be one habit at a time. And that's what I do with my clients. We work on one habit every week or every 2 weeks, so that they're able to adopt them and stay consistent, maintain momentum, and keep them for the rest of their lives if they're what they want, right? So it's very important. And so sometimes people prefer to stay in that vicious cycle because, again, that makes them feel more accomplished. But in the long run, it will impact their health. So is it really good? I don't know about that.
Yeah.
And
I think
again,
sometimes
stress,
it's just something that you're
yeah,
comfortable with, whether
yeah,
you like it or not. I mean, there's some level of security to it. I mean, I've heard, I have never experienced what I'm about to say before, so I really don't even know that I have the right to say it, but I have heard before that sometimes people that are in like abusive relationships and things like that have a hard time getting out of it, because believe it or not, in some psychological way, there's a sense of security there. And I can't even imagine that, but I think that thought kind of can overflow to a lot of areas of our lives where we are so afraid to get out of something that's hurting us because we feel secure. And like you said, not necessarily in that situation, but in other situations, we feel accomplished.
right.
But are we really? That's so
Yeah,
fascinating. Wow.
yeah. But change is scary for a lot of people. And so we don't want to change, or we don't want to make the effort to change because sometimes it's difficult. It's easier to stay in the same cycle because we know it. It's comfortable. We know how to do that. So it's hard. But if it's a stressful situation, like in your case, Frank, when money and kids, the important thing is that you give breaks to that stress. There are 2 types of stress. It's the eustress, which is a positive one, which is when we get married or we buy a new house, we have a new baby, something like that, positive things. And then we have distress. That is the bad stress, the negative stress that keeps repeating over and over. So if you have stressful situations, but you have time to rest and let them end after a certain time, you're good, you're fine. What you don't want to do is keeping that stress situation in your body and in your mind over and over and over. That's the dangerous part, because there's no rest and recharge.
Mm. Frank, I'll let you ask the last question before we have to get out of here. It's on you.
Yeah. No. So if there was one, and I'm sure there's a lot of things, right? So if there was one overarching thing that you could tell everybody about the importance of life work balance, that and I know you can't, I know it's not like a golden key statement,
Yeah.
right? But if there was
Yeah.
just one thing, what would be that thing that would help people understand the importance of really focusing in on balancing themselves?
Well, we touched on different things, and the message is learn how you function so you can take better care of yourself. And again, we're all different. And what I always do with my clients is, I mention testing a lot, because again, what works for me might not work for you, and vice versa, right? This is for foods, Foods that are good for you might not be good for me. And also like self-care strategies. What works for me might not be good for you. I love meditation. You might say, no, meditation is awful for me. I look for something different, which is fine, right? Because again, we react to different things. What I probably would suggest is try to live your life in the present moment as much as you can, because we're always on this autopilot all the times. We don't enjoy our precious moments. We don't enjoy our work. I remember after I shifted my priorities and I started to work in a more mindful way, oh my goodness, I realized that my job is a dream, because you get to plan the most important day of a couple, and you're there to guide them, to assist them, to answer questions, to suggest, changes, design, flowers, music. I mean, it's so much fun. And I remember the last years before burnout killed me, I was like, I can't stand this. I can't stand these flowers. I can't stand this song. Everything became so horrible for me. But then I looked at the wedding in a completely different way. And the wedding day became again a wonderful time. And I enjoyed it every single minute. The setup, setting up, the tablecloths and making sure the place settings are perfect and the floral centerpiece look the perfect way. I don't know, table numbers look right in the center as people enter. All these little details. I love that, because I engaged in the present moment and I was focused on the present moment instead of thinking, oh my goodness, what will happen in 10 minutes, in 2 hours? Let's think now. And let's make this moment amazing. So mindfulness is really a way of living to help us stay more focused and take better action, be more present in what we do, make better decisions. And we improve our productivity and we achieve our goals better, basically. So it's a very difficult thing to do because we're always distracted by things. But whenever you feel a little tense, stop what you're doing, take a little breath, and just pay attention to what's happening. Focus on what's around you, what's inside you. It's a little reset technique that works wonders, and I love it.
I love that. So do me a favor before I hand this over to David. Tell everybody who's listening, if they need a life coach and they liked what you had to say, let everybody know how they can get in touch with you or how they can reach out to you to start talking about that with you.
Absolutely. Easiest way, I would say, is visiting my website at sabrinacadini.com. There you can find information about my programs, my blog, so, a lot of information. And also on social media, I'm at Sabrina Cadini. Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, even though I don't use Facebook a lot.
Facebook seems to sometimes be on the dive here lately.
I know.
So I totally agree with you. So if you're watching the video version of this, you will see the web address up on the screen. If not, I think David, can you put it in the on the chat as well?
Absolutely.
So yeah, this has been incredible, enlightening, eye-opening, mind-opening as well. And so I thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm going to hand it over to David.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no, I think that, we work in an industry where it's so funny. Like most of our shows, we talk about how to make your business better. And I mean, that's the name of the podcast, for Christ's sake, right? Wedding business growth. But we can't forget about ourselves. And I love that you said your head and your mind and your body. I'm sorry, I'm thinking head and heart of my way of saying it, but mind and body. I love that so much. And I think that if we stop and think about the fact that I think anybody who's worked in the wedding industry for any time at all, or the event industry, will say that there are so many moving parts. I think we could all raise our hand and say there's so many moving parts. We've also said there's so many little details. And if we stop and think for a moment, that's no different than our lives. That's no different than what's going on internally in ourselves. And if we're capable of navigating that and we're capable of being at a high level in the job that we do with that, then we should have the confidence that we're equally capable of doing that for ourselves. Because if we lose our mind, if I don't mean lose your mind, but like if our health diminishes, even if our desire, like you mentioned a little bit about when your desire diminishes, then we're already headed in the wrong direction. And so we can, if not fully prevent all of that, we can at least slow that process down, or we can reverse that process by paying attention to these things. And so I'm super glad that you joined us tonight. Thank you. Seriously. Thank you so much for being on with us tonight. And I hope everybody definitely got as much out of it as I did and Frank did. And we'd love to have you come back too. I hope you can come back and join us on a follow-up show sometime. Now, I want to ask you this before we go. You are in sunny California, right?
I am. Yes.
Where are you originally from, if you don't mind me asking, Sabrina?
Oh, absolutely. I'm originally from Italy, Milan.
Okay.
Hence the accent that I have.
No, I love it. That was where my curiosity was from, because I thought I could point out or pick out the accent, but I didn't want to be wrong about it. But that's so awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us. For those of you that are watching, thank you as always for watching. And if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so, as we are going to continue to keep sharing phenomenal guests like we have tonight, Sabrina with us tonight. And please take a look at our website. There's a lot more information available there. That information is in the show notes. And Sabrina, if you'll hang out with us for just a second, we're going to go off live, but we'd love to just give you a couple more words of thank you once we sign off live. If you're listening to the recording, thank you as always. You can always listen to replays of our show anywhere you hear podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast. We are definitely going to be there. Just look for Wedding Business Growth. And we hope you'll continue to listen to upcoming shows along with past shows. We've got all kinds of great guests that join us. I want to say every week, but as you know, sometimes we're not on every week. We try to be, but we can't always be on every week. That being said, thank you so much. Have a great, wonderful week. We will be back next Tuesday. So please do join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4 Pacific Time, or wherever you are in between those. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.